episode 11.
11.
Vision Denial. We're done with the first round robin of groups. Day 4, there's a 1-day pause for us to mull over and wait with anticipation. We don't have time. We've got some games to review. My name's
Woo.
Sebastian. This is Josh.
Everybody panic!
And this is Connor.
Hello.
We're 3 friends who've decided that if an EU, NA, or minor region team makes it to quarterfinals, we'll get their jersey, except for G2, Fnatic, and TSM. They have to make it to semifinals.
Yes. That's what we're done at this point.
Yeah. We're also going through usually all of the games, except when they're best of 5s, taking a review, seeing trends, discussing things. Specifically, there's no repeat today from Team Liquid.
Yay.
This is some new shit.
It's interesting, all right.
New shit.
So we got our first game. It's G2 versus Team Liquid. And if anyone watched the previous episodes, you remember us saying, like, hey, Team Liquid is drafting great in play-ins, and then they go to group stage and pick these, no tank comps and very difficult to play comps. What is this? Now,
I gotta quite say though, G2 is extra disrespectful.
Yes.
This is unacceptable. Absolutely terrible.
So why is it unacceptable? Because I thought the draft was okay on G2's
What reliable engage exists on the side of G2?
A Renekton slice and dice.
That's not reliable as fuck.
Alistar QW.
Flash QW.
Flash, yes. 5-minute cooldown special Reno. Great. With the phase rush Alistar.
Yep.
This is some primo disrespect. This is the kind of shit that I see and I go, hey, look, we're going to clown on them in 5 minutes. It's fine. You see how Suning dealt with them? We're better than Suning. Totally fine. And then
it's just an early game win lane comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's literally all this is. They're like, Ashe Alistar in the bot lane, strong. Renekton Nidalee top composition, strong. I'll pick Jace because, honestly, I don't think Gen.G can beat me.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, G2, you should probably leave Worlds if this is your attitude.
Oh. Should they take a vacation?
Yeah, no, start now the vacation. You're good. You're not going to pass quarterfinals like this if you make it out of groups. And I have a very strong feeling that they're going to probably lose 2 games in group in tomorrow or after tomorrow.
Huh. Really?
That's spicy.
Yeah, because it's not the first time they've made a disrespectful draft.
It's true. Yeah.
Who's in G2's group again? It's G2 Liquid, Suning, Machi?
Yeah. Yep.
So you think Machi and Liquid are better than G2?
Yeah, I already predicted that. This is not news.
I think we all predicted this. Unlike
I was hoping for that. I'm seeing something that I think is different. I don't know if I'm ready to call those 2 better.
Yeah, they're still 2-1.
They're still 2-1. I'm saying here this is like a very close group. I think this is the closest group out of all of them, despite what everybody was thinking the last 3 days from the results. This is still the closest group. And the reason for this is because G2 has no identity outside of go, 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 go. We're better than you pound for pound on lane-wise. And then we're clever with fighting setups.
Sure.
I don't see them being creative with wave manipulation. I rarely see them get creative with vision denial or any vision setup to begin with.
Yep.
And they apparently, and I saw this in some interviews, they have happy games where they're just like, whatever. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
It's true that the casters actually were pointing out a couple times that they kept laughing on camera.
But this is the same thing they did at the World Finals last year, right?
Yeah.
In a year where everybody had no idea what the meta was going to be, the region power scaling was all over the place. No one knew who was on top. NA went to finals in an international tournament. that wasn't completely thrown and given to them. Like they earned it.
Mm-hmm.
And G2 was like, haha, it's fine. We're just gonna play whatever. No one's gonna know. And then they faced off against FPX, who was way better at doing that, but smarter. And then got their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Really
Okay.
hard.
I mean, there's something to be said about like, hey, they are playing a game, so like they should be enjoying themselves, kind of thing. Like if you're not,
Yes, no,
not when
enjoy
you're
yourself.
losing though.
No, like I can understand. I appreciate the attitude they bring into the game. They're
Sure.
always making sure that they're in good spirits, and that's great. The
Yeah.
issue here is that you're also still in a competition where you can be in good spirits and still respect people. Heck, look at Whippo.
Yeah.
Whippo, I think, is actually a good example of like being in good spirits
And still respecting your opponent.
Yep.
I don't.
We'll get there. But the best today was he was like, you could literally just see his face in the camera. He's like, Orn. They were hovering something else up for the first pick, and he's like, no, Orn.
I gotta say,
the coach is like, okay, fine.
I can see G2 has like flashes of brilliance that they know what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
But they just let themselves get carried away. Right? Like they're quick on lane assignments. They're like, I totally want to face this person because I think they can do better with this. But it seems very 1-to-1 matchup focused or 5-5 focused. There's never much in terms of skirmishing unless someone's caught out. There's never much in terms of vision setup unless it's like you're setting up right away to then do the objective. And it tells me that they're just flying at the seam of their pants. The preparation they put in seems to be, how can we have the mechanical advantage less than here's our game plan for how we win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think Team Liquid benefited from that. But the issue here is that G2 doesn't balloon leads, but Team Liquid against G2 did balloon a lead.
Well, I was watching that because, like, you were saying, like, yeah, watch the certain minutes and everything. But I was looking at it, and like, well, if Team Liquid's slightly ahead, I mean, that's really all they needed to be versus this composition because you're going against Nidalee, Renekton, Jace. Like, the longer that goes, you're all right with that.
Yeah,
really. You just had to not let them snowball. So they could just be taking dragons, making sure they didn't get a soul, cool, which extends their power spike kind of thing by getting a soul. Don't give up a Baron, don't give up a soul, and just farm evenly, and like that's all you really need to do because you just have a much better overall team composition than them for 5v5s and for late game.
Yep, I put in my notes here. First 15 minutes are important. Took the 15-minute check. 2.5k lead for Team Liquid. And then by the time the 25-minute mark hit through, it was 6k lead.
Yeah.
So it shows you very much how important it is to know when your power spike checks are supposed to go through.
Yep.
And Team Liquid had a better closer, has only had better closers than I think G2 and Machi have in their wins. And I think that if Team Liquid is able to diversify more their draft options, and they've shown that they can play up to pace to all of the other teams, I don't see how they couldn't end the whole thing with like a 3-3 or 4-2.
So my one thing that like I'm a little bit apprehensive about with this matchup is that like there were a couple times where like G2 literally just like threw themselves at Liquid and we're like, if we throw our heads against the wall long enough, like we'll get them and stuff like that. And like there was a couple fights where it did go their way or like almost very closely did. So like obviously G2 were trying, so I don't want to say like they weren't trying, but like to have such a disrespectful pick ban and also some like bits and pieces of like disrespectful play as well, and then still almost win. Like, I still don't know how well that bodes for Team Liquid. Like, yes, they won. We can't take that away from them. They won. Sweet. But like, the fact that like just the sheer like individual mechanical prowess of each person was almost enough to win I don't know. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
but that's what G2 is, right?
That's
That
their only identity.
that's their thing. It's like Cap's styles on people, right?
Let's do a history lesson real quick. Remember original Moscow 5 or Gambit? Either of you?
a little bit.
like the original, like who was on that? Like Diamond Proc? Is that right?
Diamond Procs. You had a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
The important thing, because I don't remember the names of all of them, but the top laner is the point of focus here, right? The rest of this whole team had one MO, and they were the only team in Season 2 to beat Korean teams who were just coming in as powerhouse.
Okay.
Up until the quarterfinals where that was important in the World Championship.
Yep.
And their strategy was have our top laner create madness. He wasn't particularly better than the top laners. He was just more chaotic and literally made people chase him everywhere. And they kept getting dragons to get their golden. They did not have any strong strategical play outside of we will run them down with chaos, get more gold than them with dragons, and distract them with their top laner. And then when we know we have more items than them, kill them. That's it. They were crazy. And like only one team was able to deal with them at the time. I know CLG EU, which turned into Evil Genius the year after. Yeah. And then in the World Championships, by the time that like Korean teams had figured out what they were doing, they were like, "Oh, ignore the top laner, kill their team," and that was an easy, basic tactic because they only had one tactic. And I think G2's continual dominance for the last 2 years. That's right. For the last 2 years is mostly down to the fact that no one seems to have figured out where to pinpoint their issue, and it's super clear.
Well, I think their issue's perks, honestly. I think their issue's perks. Like, he's the one with the most deaths. He's the one who's usually like, if there's a losing side, it's almost always perks, unless they've invested a ton into him. Like, if perks is left alone, it seems like he underperforms a lot.
Okay, but he also gets very little attention from his jungle and his support.
No, I get that. But
that's their playstyle.
I think part of the whole thing is not just perks. It's just don't let the laning phase happen. G2's games have extended laning phases.
Yeah.
Consistently. Their powers are in the fact that they think they can lane better. They will keep doing that until they have the team fight. And I'm saying that's just Unicorns of Love's MO. And everybody knows how to deal with them. Just swap Unicorns of Love and G2 into your slots. And then boom, bada bing. You have virtually a similar, if not comprehensively equal, team setup. You could turn off the name tags in a Unicorns of Love game and say, that's G2, and I would believe you.
So you're saying basically do like a 5-minute lane swap after the turret plating loses its special weakness bot lane, and then just lane swap 2 people top lane, go for the early rift, concede first dragon kind of thing. Like
they don't usually go for Drake.
Yeah.
They actually don't. It's like a very late Drake during that game. Like, let's see. In this game, the Drake was taken super late. It was 11 minutes and 40 seconds by Team Liquid. After like G2 ended up getting the Herald, it took so long, and G2 definitely had ample times to get the Drake.
It's true.
So yeah, honestly, if you don't let them lane ever, like that's what Sunin did to Team Liquid. Is they never let them lane in the bot lane. Hell, if you do something similar, I don't think G2 knows how to deal with that.
Right, or just play like River Shen and just be back and forth, not.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll have to see it. See if any. We'll keep that as a thing to watch on. Like, hey, does somebody try to punish G2's playstyle, or are they able to pull it off against?
I still think just because, like, I think their arrogance will just pull them across the finish line. Honestly, I think their arrogance will be enough to just like drag them across the finish line, like kicking and screaming type of thing. But we'll see.
We'll see.
We never even talked about the whole freaking draft because we just started yelling.
Like, honestly, no, the draft is like whatever on the side of Team Liquid. It's just standard smart drafting. It's just G2's the disrespectful. It's like Team Liquid went, oh, we can do more than one of 3 draft styles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And proceeded to just draft like a regular composition that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They did the Volibear counter, which is the only time one of the only 2 times I'll agree with it. Either counter to Renekton or in the jungle if you don't have Renekton already.
Mm-hmm.
And then they proceeded with a strong setup for a re-engage or to a helpful engage, and rounded it out with good other re-engage and tank line.
Mm-hmm.
And they answered it properly because the other side decided we like AD, like a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Should we just get into Suning and Machi then?
Yes, sure. I like this draft. This draft's interesting.
So Suning on blue side and Machi on red. Suning had their draft start off with a Nidalee first pick, followed by a Jax Syndra. That was really interesting. The Jax was in response to something that we'll get in a minute. And then they rounded out their draft with a Ezreal Bard. Mm-hmm. Machi's first 2 picks were a Volibear Ashe, so the Jax is picked as a counter, I guess, to Volibear. And then Machi then also picked up the Shen. And then they finished off their draft with a Azir Rakan.
Yes. I think this draft is super cool. It's not my favorite of the tournament so far, but it does something interesting. I knew immediately when the Volibear was picked that it was for the jungle, but they weren't going to take that chance. They were going to take Jax because of the interaction between Volibear and Jax at all stages. That bad move. You activated the trap card. Boom. You take Shen. A great answer into Jax at all stages. You can't do split pushing because Shen out tanks the scaling of Jax and allows for a lot of options for,
if the Jax is kept in check, we should.
If the Jax is kept in check. Yeah, of course. This is hindered on proper execution, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I think that Machi really outsmarted Suning here in terms of the draft setup up until they decided to, ban Senna for some reason. That's the only questionable thing I would say out of Suning.
I guess they're saying it's Nidalee, Jax, Syndra. Between those 3, you already have a ton of damage, so you'd be fine picking like a Senna who's a slightly lower damage.
Yeah, but it's already a complicated composition out of Suning.
Sure.
There's no disengage option. There's no engage option. I mean, the engage option is Bard, but that's a complicated one. Mm-hmm. The 2v2 setups are not great for jungle top or jungle mid.
Yeah.
This whole thing is predicated on Suning setting up the first 10 minutes really well and then ballooning up until the first 25 minutes. And they didn't play the first 10 minutes properly enough for it to be convincing for me that Suning was properly playing out the win condition.
Well, that's something that I do want to say is that Machi did a super good job getting first blood and keeping down that Jax. That those first 5 minutes or whatever, because I know they killed him super early, but the 5-10 minutes after that as well of just kind of trying to keep the Jax in check, super great. Unfortunately, it all went downhill when Jax TP's bot and gets a double kill and gets back in the game. But up until that point, super good job. I thought Suning was gonna kind of be in the realm of a Damwon, like a top in terms of they're really hard to abuse, in terms of their mistakes. So it was really promising to see a team like Machi be able to, pick up on the fact that kill this Jax. He's level 2 or whatever, half health. Send the Volibear up there, kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and then the 25-minute mark, Suning had a 7K lead, and at that point, it was donezo.
Basically what to note about those fights really is, Suning didn't really have any engage, but they really didn't engage almost at all. Not really. I mean, basically all they did is like even Bard can retreat back with the journey and block off with Qs. It's easier to land when they're running at you. Right? So they're just retreating back as you'll run away. Cinder's running away. Italy's running away, like landing poke while they're retreating back. And basically, Machi, there was too big of a distance usually between the Azir and the Ashe and the rest of their team. So the Rakan, Volibear, and the what was it, Shen, can jump in. Rakan's just going in, Volibear's jumping in, Shen can jump on one of them or jump in himself. Like, cool. They're all just jumping in. 3 of them are going in, but they're almost in a 3v5 without their damage a lot of the time because the Ashe and the Azir are either behind or like, being threatened by the Jax or something, so unable to join the fight because they're afraid they're just going to get one-shotted by a Jax jumping on them or something. So part of that was Suning's like zoning them well and trying to keep the carries away.
Oh yeah.
But
Suning played this composition excellently. This is an example of when you know that Suning wasn't trying to style on a team. Like there was a lot of respect that was played for this because of the way that they responded to Machi's first 10 minutes. Because otherwise, what would have happened is that if Suning was disrespectful, they would have lost this game after 10.
Yeah.
This would have been super clear, right? Something if people don't understand why this composition worked at all after the first 10 minutes is because it's a 1-4 composition. A lot of people will say, oh, there's a 1-3-1 setup or a 1-4 setup. Teams will default to that as just part of like the lane setup until they have to transfer to neutral objective, but that's not necessarily their comp. This is their comp. The whole time, that's exactly what they're doing the entire time. And there should always be one person pressuring one side of the map while you're pressuring any other side of the map for what is your current main objective. You're always using a pawn on the other side, which is why it was important for Machi to recognize Jax couldn't be ahead. Fortunately.
Which is because those are the 3 champions basically that it's best with is the Jax, Camille, and Fiora are what we see because they're the late game scaling fighters that basically say, okay, if I have a late game 4-item Camille or whatever, or in this case Jax, you don't want to be 1v1ing me, right? Like you don't want to be alone in the side lane against that. So it forces more resources for the team to respond to it, right?
Yep.
And that's the idea behind the team comp. Okay, if you send 2 people down there, we can threaten Baron as 4 or something, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's always using your numbers disadvantage to create a numbers advantage if you've done the first 10 minutes.
Yep. Like in North America, we have 2 teams that play it. It's TSM and 100 Thieves. That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
But otherwise, I want to see from Suning something cleaner out of them for me to be convinced that they'll do better in the best of 5 series. I feel like most of us are convinced that Suning is guaranteed out, and it's just a race between G2, Team Liquid, and Machi.
I'm more or less okay with that, yeah.
Right?
I said there's definitely a world where Suning doesn't get out. Like I'm not saying it's likely, but
I mean, if Suning does not get out, I'll be very sad. I want Sword Art to make top 8. Let Sword Art make it to top 8. It's been so long.
He was a bit better this game. It wasn't like, player of the day or anything, but like, obviously he wasn't like missing Nautilus hooks and looking bad.
I think it's because of the champion they picked.
Oh. You can still look bad on Bard.
Yeah, that's true. Otherwise, I would say I'm very impressed with how Machi keeps playing tightrope composition, where they have to be just at a specific type of gold lead at any given point. And think that if given the day, they'll take 3 games to after tomorrow.
Interesting.
They were close in every single one of those games.
Yeah.
At no point did it seem that a team was dumpstering Machi.
Yeah. That's what I said coming in. It's like, hey, Machi is actually good, guys. In case anyone's like, oh, I haven't watched them.
Yeah. No, this is one of those things too, when everybody's like, oh, TSM's improvement is really impressive. Machi's improvement during their playoffs was stupidly impressive. Can you imagine against the caliber of world-class teams The improvement is exponential. I can only expect good things from them on Thursday.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, I don't know how likely it is that they're gonna.
This is the group to watch. This is the day I'm excited for.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
right. I think you're right. It's just weird. I don't know. I just like I get what you're saying.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just
Don't know how I feel about this.
I don't know how
Yeah.
I feel. Yeah.
Sure.
I just want Liquid to get out, but like wants and what's happening is two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Honestly, my dream scenario would be to see Machi and Sunin get out, but my predictions have Sunin and Team Liquid get out. To the next
I
game.
have. Yep. Yeah. Yep. DRX FlyQuest?
Yes.
Yep. So this is frustrating game for me personally, but you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
DRX on blue side, first pick Caitlyn, followed up by a Kindred Lux.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And they round out their draft with a Maokai Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
FlyQuest, their first two picks are a Ash Graves, followed by an Ornn. And then they picked a Pantheon Orianna. Discuss.
DRX, what the fuck?
Mm.
I thought G2's drafting was disrespectful beforehand. This is downright insulting.
Why is that?
I'm sorry. Don't ever first pick a Caitlyn when Ornn is up. What in the goddamn fuck? And then you follow it up with a Kindred Lux after they pick the Graves and Ash in a combo that literally would fuck over Kindred in a team fight setup. This is muy disrespectful. And then you still manage to let the Ornn go through and let them pick it. And their answer to it is the Maokai, which is not good.
But the Maokai did pretty good, though.
I think this was a result less of the Maokai itself being a good pick and more of the FlyQuest having a much better composition and fumbling.
All right.
So my point is they were just really prioritizing the Caitlyn Lux for that lane advantage, and that worked. So they were giving up. Sure, they gave up dragons, and they weren't prioritizing like the neutral objectives per se as much. But they're just going for, okay, we're gonna have our Lux and our mid laner. Like their team is supporting the kindred marks, which I love seeing from LGG as well. So they're really prioritizing having, like, we saw the Lux go in and ward the enemy like wolf camp, which is pretty deep in kind of thing, just to be like, okay, yeah, there's nobody here, safe for kindred to go in kind of thing. Like, so prioritizing the kindred marks to get them ahead, and then just lane pressure from the Caitlyn Lux early. And Maokai just needed to be a tank and provide some CC. Like it wasn't specific like the champion pick. It's like, okay, he's a tank, he can absorb some damage and he provides some CC.
In most other contexts, I would have approved of this if it wasn't for the fact that they just deliberately let an Ornn go through.
Yeah.
In which case, it would have invalidated their Kindred and Caitlyn, which were their win conditions.
Yep.
And their Zoe. I don't understand why this happened. This is not okay. So I wrote down like the timestamps to look into, which was 15, 25, and 30 minutes. Funnily enough, the game ended at 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I wrote down 15 minutes, check the gold lead. It's a 1K lead for DRX, but it was misleading because FlyQuest had 3 Drakes, or it was 3-0, had 2 Drakes and the first Herald. And the entire lead was solely on Caitlyn as Ornn was ramping up. This tells me that they wanted to do a Hail Mary, very risky type of composition and play against a team that they think they could get away with doing that. And I'm like, all the power in the world if you want to try to do something that's pretty risky. But this is using mostly standard picks in a type of composition that doesn't gel very well with each other against a composition that in every aspect counters them, and expecting FlyQuest to fumble. And honestly, at any given point, FlyQuest could have won.
Yeah, they definitely could have. It definitely made me sad. But like the Caitlyn was basically just like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, flash in and auto the Oriana dead, like, kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah, but
that's because all the lead was on Caitlyn,
yeah,
right?
because all the lead is on Caitlyn. But
Yeah.
like, imagine a scenario in which FlyQuest was faster on the ball. They see the flash from Caitlyn and they turn immediately. It's
Oh,
one of those things where I accrue this more to being FlyQuest's games to lose.
yeah. They had a Death Crown Oriana, and like,
So for NA people, are we supposed to be happy with this game, or is this a crap? NA sucks. Pack it up, boys.
I don't think it's that. I think it's one of those things where like FlyQuest understood clearly what their win conditions were and
yep.
clearly understood that their team comp was better because on a 10K deficit, they were still making DRX sweat because
Mhm.
those leads are misleading given the just general nature of how the composition worked and where the gold was.
And how Ornn works.
Speed is almost ineffective against you have Graves, which has passive armor, an Ornn super armor, a Pantheon also has like damage reduction and
Invulnerability, yeah.
yeah, and an Orianna that adds shields to add effective health. Your
Yep.
Caitlyn doesn't do as much as you think it does. What I think
Yep.
is the impressive thing out of this is DRX decided that their win condition wasn't Caitlyn. They thought it was going to win on its own. It was Kindred, and yet Kindred is not the thing that won this game. It was the Caitlyn because
Yep.
they so many resources into what was it? It was 4 marks at 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, if DRX does make it out, I don't expect them to get a game off of any of the teams that are in the top 8. This is not okay. Teams that play like this in the group stage, I don't think this is okay. In any way, shape. Cool. It shows that you've got like some variance in being able to play really, really complicated stuff that would be very difficult to do. But this is utter disrespect. It shows me that you're not doing any actual preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that you're flying at the seam of your pants because you just expect to win.
Well, they're setting their carry and snowballing a carry to win, and that is, that has always been effective. Is just get one person really ahead, kind of thing. Has always been good, but it's not like a whole team comp. Exactly. Yeah, like
it's not 2015 anymore. That kind of strategy
it's not a hyper carry.
does not work. It's not.
And it's not like you're playing, Janna support Lulu mid type of nonsense, right? Like it's
your composition isn't designed around that fact.
Yep.
You still have damage conditions from other lanes and from the jungle, and I just real frustrating because honestly, I think FlyQuest, if they had properly executed this was FlyQuest's game to win. They weren't being outplayed in any way, shape, or form. They were just being slowly whittled down by mistake.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game of like who makes more mistakes will lose. Because I don't think either side played this game outside of the close. The closing from DRX is very clean, but any team that's in group stages that doesn't close cleanly is likely not to win World.
Yeah.
Because like I could excuse that a little bit during play-ins, but the second you get into groups, you have to clean closely.
Yeah. I have Deft as a player of the day just because like without him getting to the backline, which in theory should have been more difficult. And you can argue part of that is FlyQuest being slightly out of position in a few places, things like that. But a lot of that's on him going, okay, the Orianna and the Ornn are next to each other, so I can just get in before I can get CC'd and just hit that Orianna. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that's on him recognizing those really small mistakes and taking advantage of them. So.
Yep.
Well, let's try to let these people rest. They had a hard time. They've been kicked around a little bit. Twitter seems to be going after FlyQuest like a lot. So
I mean, they're in the group with Top. I really wouldn't go after them that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Top
God,
Esports versus Unicorns of Love. What I thought was going to be the slap of the day. It score wise, it was the slap of the day, but I feel like one team got slapped a bit harder. But we'll get to that. So Top Esports on red side got a first pick Lucian, followed up by a Gragas Jax, and then they rounded out their picks with a Senna Tom Kench. Unicorns of Love first picked No Man's Syndra, followed up by a Camille, and then third picked a Karthus. And then their last picks were a Nautilus Lee Sin.
Are you ready to hear my take of the day with this composition?
Go.
Top Esports gave so much respect to Unicorns of Love and called them out at the same time.
It was a really weird amount of respect, but I guess that's a good thing, right? Taking people seriously.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the favorite team to win, and they took a joke team. People will call it a joke team. This is the team like that is playing wacky and out of their mind.
Sure.
Right? Okay. This is G2 Junior. Right? They took G2 Junior seriously and called them out at the same time. They were like, you guys don't play Ornn. That's fine. We'll ban your Swain, Kassadin, and Renekton, which are your best performing champions. And we'll pick a Lucian and expect you to pick things that will play into the Lucian, and we'll draft around that. And they did that perfectly. Given as a response to a Syndra Camille, your 3 combo being Lucian, Gragas, and Jax, and knowing that they won't do any other picks after that that'll answer that, is crazy amount of respect and preparation from Top. There's no Ornn that goes through this. And Top doesn't take it themselves because they went to try to answer to UOL's decision. They played to make a win condition around what UOL wanted to win with, and UOL decided, hi, we're going to play Karthus bot. And I think that's the most amount of disrespect out of UOL to Top.
And it's kind of normal for them, though.
Contrast.
I'm kind of with Connor. I don't know if I'd call that disrespect. I'd just call that like their weirdness.
Yeah, like Karthus bot is nothing new for them. It is in Worlds, but
yeah, but I really want to think about all of the options that existed, right? You went in knowing that they were going to do a Gragas jungle, and you picked a Karthus, and you decided to pivot for no reason because they picked a Senna Tom Kench to make sure that Karthus goes bot lane. In a lane matchup that doesn't give you an advantage, Senna Tom Kench versus Karthus Nautilus does not make a Karthus advantage lane. This is 2 farming lanes in a setup where Gragas Karthus was already going to be farming jungles. And you know they played jungle Karthus already. That's like a region that popularized it.
Yep.
I was a bit surprised that they didn't send the Karthus jungle. That was very weird to me.
Like, there's so many questions I have. Why would you pick this Lee Sin?
I guess Ananasik thought he was better than Karsa.
And this is what I'm talking about. This is the most amount of disrespect out of UOL. And they got slapped.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give them too much flack because, like, the way, like, they play around No Man's and stuff like that, a lot of them is, like, not playing with disrespect, but playing, like, with, like, their foot, like, taped to the gas. Like,
so here's my argument.
I would just say it's not great, but go, Connor.
Here's my argument on Karthus. I've been working on my champions pick page, which is now, you guys can pull it up. You can even show it on screen if you feel like it. But I have it all color-coded as all the champions that have been picked in each role and what their, like, basically purposes are. Like, you know, hey, Ornn is a tank, the obvious things. So when you start looking at, okay, hey, why did they pick this? It has to be, okay, its primary purpose, like, okay, Ornn is a tank, Shen is a tank. Why would we ever pick Shen instead of Ornn if Ornn is just flat out, you know, does that job better? Well, because Shen has the global is usually reason, right? Like, because okay, there's a solid reason why you should pick Shen instead of Ornn. Cool, right? Like, that's what we're going for. But the reason to pick Karthus, almost, you could argue, is, all right, I'm expecting whatever's going to happen, they're probably going to be able to focus me. And whether I'm on an, if I'm on an Ashe or I'm on an Ezreal or I'm on a Karthus, the same thing's going to happen. They're going to focus me, and they're probably better than me, and I'm going to die. At least on Karthus, I could still go get off a couple of Qs and ult and do my whole share of the damage, even though I'm going to die anyway.
Oof. I don't.
That's a bit of a defeatist way of going about it, but I get it. I get the argument.
I mean, that's still such a bad idea. What's your logic out for then Lee Sin against the situation? Yeah, the logic starts falling flat at that point.
Okay. Let's look at the jungle pool. So we got Graves, Lilia, Nidalee, Kindred, Hecarim, Evelynn, Set. Really, they'd already picked Gragas. You could argue that Lee Sin is the most reliable disengage you're getting out of the jungle pool that is mad at the moment.
This is not convincing.
If that's what they're going for.
That's so not convincing. You know what UOL's MO is, and it's hi, we're going to go in, we're not doing disengage. So I want you to think like a UOL team that shows respect.
Maybe they're like, hey, all of a sudden we can't fight this team. We're going to have to play defensive.
See, this is the weird thing. I think UOL should more respect to the play-in teams than to the group teams.
Food for thought. That's all.
Like, that's a good perspective. Like, that's a good perspective to think about when you're trying to, like, compare what type of champions there are. I just don't think UOL actually went through that thought process.
Okay, well, that's fair.
I think they were trying to, like, psych them out. They're like, aha! And it just didn't work.
No. It's just, yeah, I agree. It's probably not the best pick. But if you were to make an argument, since it was done, what would that argument be? Right? That's all. I'm not saying it was necessarily smart.
All right.
Or that, like, yes, this is a valid argument. It's just, if we're going to make this argument, this is how I'm going to do it. That's all.
So I think with that, we're good to go on to the next one, right?
Yeah, I will say one thing, though. UOL has been consistent with their early games, and I think I'm very impressed with that. It's just they let Jackie Love have Senna again, and I think that's really sad. No one should let Jackie Love have Senna again. Please don't let him have Senna again. You're going to get out damage as if he's playing Sivir, and that is a scary prospect.
His last game, like they said, he's playing with set mid, so like that kind of skewed the numbers, but he did 50% of his team's damage on Senna. 50?
50 is quite a lot. All right, so
like when you do that on LeBlanc, it's like ooh, but yeah.
We'll get to LeBlanc. But first, we got to get through Fnatic versus Gen.G. This did not go the way I thought it was gonna go. Fnatic takes out the win against Gen.G, the favorite of the group. Fnatic first pick a Ornn, followed up by a Graves Senna, and then they round out their draft with a Leona Orianna. Gen.G pick a Renekton Nidalee, so that's a combo that we've seen a lot over this tournament. Then they last pick an Ezreal in their first round, and then in the second round they pick a Rakan Azir.
I have question marks for Gen.G. This
isn't
like wholly bad, but this is not like the level of disrespect. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? But this is more like this is the stage of the tournament where I think Ornn on red side it should be banned almost all the time. Right? This is am I crazy?
Yeah.
Are we in disagreement?
No, I mean I agree with this. So I think you're looking at the comps. The first thing you'd say, looking at Fnatic's comp alone, is you're looking at it like, oh, okay, Senna is not like high DPS going to be constantly getting out, the attack speed stuff, right? That's not what she does. It's almost more of a burst champion. And Graves Orianna is played together usually by the basically fact, okay, we can go Shockwave Orianna combo plus that guarantees the Grave combo to go with it. You see this a lot where you go Shockwave into the the end of the line combo, and it's just boom, we blow somebody up. That's the point of playing the two of them together, right? So it's this burst damage combo and it has frontline and CC. So what you're missing is the reliable, like, sustained damage until they're waiting for the cooldowns to come back. But what Gen.G's playing into it, it's not like they're playing tanks that can absorb that burst damage.
Yeah.
And keep going through. Like, if their team had an Ornn or Shen or something, or even just a Stoneplate Nautilus that can, hey, I can absorb a bunch of burst damage, survive hopefully, and now allow my team to be, okay, cool, their key abilities are down, we can go in and make this fight now. Instead, they're playing, Renekton is building damage, Rakan, as realized in Italy, so it's like, okay, whoever that burst hits is going to die, and now you can win just because it's 5v4.
With 2 tanks, and they don't have enough sustained damage.
Yes.
And the worst part is that when I first saw this draft, I went, all right, Fnatic is the clear win here. There's not that much of a difference in skill and of execution for me to think that Gen.G will absolutely outplay this in a way that's like unforgivable. If they do, then Fnatic needs to go back to the drawing board also. Until I saw the Ignite exhaust out of Rakan. And then I went, is today's theme just disrespect? Just absolute unfathomable disrespect.
And hey, they punished that right away. They saw that level 1 and went, okay.
Oh my god.
But like, I think that's cool though, that it's like, I like that, like, for example, Fnatic, they see the disrespect picks and like they abuse it, right? Like I like the fact that like we are at a point more or less in League of Legends where like the Eastern teams, I guess, is what they're categorized as, right? Like Korea and China, Eastern, or
yeah, it's the Eastern, like the Eastern major teams, and then Western major teams, and Eastern minor teams, and Western minor teams.
Cool. So like we've now gotten to the point in League of Legends where Eastern major teams can't just for free do stupid things. Sometimes they can, like with DRX and stuff like that, but like it's not gonna always be a for free dog on him type of game.
The DRX
like
game
there
wasn't
will be. It wasn't
right?
horrible
Like,
either. No, I'm just saying, like it still worked out in DRX's favor.
Sure.
Yeah. So like, I think it's a good thing that like we're seeing the fact that they get disrespected on, but then Fnatic still comes back and like answers the disrespect.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. Cause what's it called? Like years ago, like with the Samsung run and stuff like that, you'd see crap where they're just like, do whatever, like whatever. And then they would just smoke them anyway because they were so good. But now it's gone to the point where it's like, oh wow, we actually can't like disrespect everyone. Maybe we should like actually maybe pay attention.
Hey, no, exactly Top is playing attention.
And that's why they're probably gonna win, because they're like respecting everyone.
They have the most respect out of every team in the entire world, regardless of who you play against, because they want to win. It's not like, oh yes, we're coming to play to win. Of course we are. But this team is not that good. How about we have fun, guys? And I'm like, guys, you can have fun and also be respectful. No one likes being spat on. And I did the checks again because I had to check I wrote it down before I saw the Ignite exhaust. The checks at that point would be 15 and 25 minutes. And at 15 minutes, it was 1.5k lead. But my issue here, however, is that at 20 minutes, the 1.5k to 2k lead was there for 12 minutes, and it was still that at 25 minutes. So 22 minutes of Fnatic being 2k ahead worries me.
Yeah.
Because they finally ended up getting a very good, clean fight that Gen.G just gave up on the Baron engage and misplayed a fight and got 5-0, and then Fnatic closed it out. I really want to see Fnatic in these types of situations where they're properly calling out this kind of shit, balloon leads, and not just be like, yes, we're ahead. Hey, guys. Because they had Ornn. Imagine balloon the lead more and they had the Ornn item. This would have looked more like a stomp than an upset.
Yeah, that's true. They only ever got 2 Ornn items going.
Yep.
Like, they had reliable engage. They can, and a gold lead, they can afford to take a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
and what and both of well, I guess the Youmu's is fine, but like he didn't even give Senna a Molten Edge. He gave her whatever the upgraded Black Cleaver is, which I don't think is that great.
CPM Cleaver, yeah.
I don't think she purchased Infinity Edge at that point.
No, I know, but usually like that's like the item to upgrade, right? So
okay, but also if you have a Black Cleaver and an Infinity Edge in the inventory, and I upgrade that into the
Molten Edge.
Well, sorry, the Cleaver. What's it called? The Obsidian Cleaver.
I have no idea.
That is not the Ornn's fault. That is the person playing Senna's fault, because it depends on the order you have your items in your inventory.
Yes.
So don't ever be like, "Hey, Ornn, you upgraded the wrong item." That is not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
It goes by the order you have them in your inventory.
PSA for solo queue.
I've seen people do that, and it's like, no, that is your own fault.
I'm more or less done with this game. It was a surprising win. Self-made one on Graves for the first time in like who knows how long. Like, pretty good.
Yep. It is some pretty good shit.
All right. Then we move to the last game of the day, which is, my opinion, the slap of the day. It would have been Top versus Unicorns, but then this game happened. And I feel that this is a bigger slap.
A little bit.
Huh?
And this is one that I say no disrespect on either side was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I was happy to see this.
So we got TSM versus LGD, TSM on blue side. Graves was their first pick, followed up by Shen LeBlanc. Then they rounded out their draft with an Ezreal Bard. LGD first picked a Renekton Senna, followed by a Lilia. And then they rounded out their draft with a Orianna Nautilus.
So, you guys ready to see some really cool shit from this interaction?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, cool. So the first thing, TSM properly acknowledges the strengths and weaknesses that LGD has shown so far. It banned the Kindred. Very happy that Peanut did not underperform this game on the Lilia.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
They, for some reason, banned Ornn on blue side, and I think that's because they wanted to pick up the Shen, or at least the Graves and the Shen. And I think that's great. I put a question mark when it happened. When I saw that afterwards, I went, makes more sense. LGD, upon the respect for this as well, took away Lucian, Caitlyn, and Twisted Fate, which would have been strong contenders for lane priorities and global pressures when need be. When they notice the 3 combo that is the Grave, Shen, LeBlanc, which on paper people will be like, whatever. But this is North America. And remember, we wanted to revisit the predictability of North America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that the only team that has yet to change up is TSM, because the first red side ban from LGD is to ban the Twitch, because they recognize that they would probably need a Twitch Recon to solidly make this trio work. And then they banned the Jhin for some reason, which I don't think would have been very good when they had the Graves.
Well, they probably banned the Jhin because like they didn't want to like let the they wanted to like just like bait like the Rakan pick maybe.
That makes sense. I can see that. I can understand that, because TSM on the other side also just banned the Leona Silas, and I think that's just the bans that they were going to do regardless of the adaptation that LGD brought up by banning the Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, banning Silas when you're playing Shen, I guess, makes sense. But
it's also the Silas ban was also because I could have expected them putting Silas top, not just for the Shen global matchup, but because of how it interacts in the lane phase.
Yep.
And they want to make sure that their Shen is not too far behind. Because part of the win conditions, what I think was their original win conditions, was bot lane focused. And unfortunately, their whole plan went to shit when Twitch was banned. This should no longer be the way you plan out your thing. We should be planning it out based off the Twitch Recon. Twitch Recon should be an answer.
Okay, so if we're saying, so you're saying Twitch is all at the point now, is like Twitch a hyper carry, like you can win games?
Yes.
Okay. Is there another hyper carry that is playable right now? What else like hyper carries games from bot lane?
None of them. They're usually transferred to mid lane. Tristana.
Okay. Would you have liked to have seen that?
It doesn't offer the same type of tactical advantages and doesn't offer the same kind of presence or pressure. That's the difference, right?
So
because they're both hyper carries and they both fit the role of, if I get to a certain point in the game, I can out damage almost anyone from the other side, does not equate to the same kind of level of, we have somebody who can do that but is also invisible versus somebody who can do that and jumps on you one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No.
Right.
Yeah. It's different strengths.
Because of the type of interaction it does with the Shen. That's specifically why this Twitch was really important. The composition doesn't have the same kind of pressure, and the pivot to the Ezreal, I think, was the only good decision.
They could have gone Kai'Sa Shen.
Yeah, they could have. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I think honestly, if Callista was still up, I probably would have also liked Callista, to be quite frank. But I can understand that at that point they're like, well, we have our core combo. What survives in the bot lane against Senna and whatever tanky shit they're gonna pick up? And they're like, Ezreal Bard. I'm like, all right, I guess it's serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, North American teams need to figure out ways to do compositions that can't get banned out in round 2. In the same way that, I think I'm happy to see Europe has transitioned away from compositions that get banned out in round 1.
Yep.
So, in regards to the game itself, I think
I feel like almost like LeBlanc is not going to be. Oh, sorry.
Nope. Go ahead.
No, I think the mic was cutting off a little bit.
You cut off for a bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. No, I was just saying LeBlanc has not been played yet. That was a brand new thing. Wasn't going to be contested.
Yeah.
And okay, I guess you could say getting the Graves first is what we wanted, but why not in that case go Graves, Shen, Twitch?
The Rakan is picked up afterwards or banned. That combo is hell. The Rakan is literally what makes up that combo. And you have to make sure that you also have the strong core, because if they pick up a mid laner that is hard to counter with LeBlanc, it becomes an issue, right? When you pick LeBlanc into the trio that they had here, they were limited into what kind of mid laner they could answer with. If you use your counter pick as LeBlanc, then you're at the mercy as to whether or not your LeBlanc pick will work into the 4 core that is the opposing side.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, the order in which TSM did this is great. I just think that they were called out and they did not have a plan B to pivot.
Sure.
Well, I'm hoping TSM can turn things around. As much as I don't like them, I don't like to see NA be this bad. So I'm hoping that they can pick up a win or two, despite the fact that in my predictions I've wanted them to go 0-6. I'm realizing now that when all of NA is doing bad, it just really sucks. So I'll forego my want to have TSM go 0-6 if it means they could pick up a win or two and just make me feel a little bit better about my citizenship.
I'm really sad about LGD winning this because they were doing the thing where it's hey, you know how they do Medius loves Nocturne? Well, LS loves seeing people play Renekton, and Renekton was 0-5, and then LS was casting, and it goes 3-0.
Yeah.
And then on the day, Renekton was 0-2 with LS not casting, and then it wins a game.
Yeah.
Blech.
I gotta say though, TSM really did well to keep in check what was the gold lead from LGD. LGD had the same problem that Fnatic had. 10 minutes, they had a 2K lead, then it went to 3K at 15, then 2K at 20, then 3K at 25. That's not a gold lead. That's just holding on to the small amount of advantage that you have. TSM made them work. They were just unfortunately too many mistakes on a team composition that I think they did not practice.
Yeah.
So there is a slight glimmer of a small shimmer. Because also, LGD does not know how to close properly still. Yep. So, if anything, I don't expect LGD to do super well on their Group C. This is Group C, yeah, on the Saturday. I don't see LGD getting more than one win. Whether or not that's TSM or not, I don't expect them to get more than one win.
Alrighty.
Because of this very inconsistent
around
with lead and inability to close.
Sure. We saw that in play-ins too, to a certain extent.
Yeah. So this is just the trend.
Yeah. Who did you have as your player of the day?
It was very hard.
Are you, Josh?
My player of the day was Tactical, just because I really liked his play on Callista. There was a one team fight where I feel like it was kind of botched, but the team fight down bot lane where it was a 5v5 or whatever, and he got killed by the Nidalee because he decided to QSS a bit too fast, and blew all his movement out. But other than that, I think Tactical had a really good game. I like the fact that Tactical was able to have such a good game against such a mechanically intensive team. So that's where mine's going.
Okay, I guess that's arguable. Yeah.
Mine was Bin.
Okay.
Mostly because out of all the teams at World so far, the camera died.
All the we ran a bit long.
Out of all the teams at Worlds that play 1-4 composition, this is the first time that a team plays the 1-4 in their composition. And Bin did this solidly well from start to end. This was a large amount of disruption, really good at pressuring on opposite sides of the map, parts of the map that are necessary, and making sure to leverage the amount of power he'd accrued over time, not just to dive in head first and die every time, but to make sure that any stragglers were picked off and they would be zone off otherwise. So I think this was a solid case for the solo carry 1-4 composition for the rest of Worlds that I think needs to be accounted for now, because it's usually tanks.
I mean, not really. Let's look at my top lane. We have 23 unique top picks. We have 7 tanks.
Yeah.
8 what I consider AD bruisers, but so basic things that it can take damage, but also want to do damage. But out of those, so the Camille and the Jax are the only 2 main split pushers. The rest of them are mostly team fighters. Like the Wukong and the Gnar, want to team fight more, right? Obviously, that's what they are. 3 kind of AP bruisers, so Silas, Vladimir, Mord, again mostly want to fight. So the only 2 main split push threats have been the Jax and Camille, but we have seen a lot of play on them. And the other picks are all just the unique champions. So Kennen is played because he's your AP burst team fighter. You get to the top lane, right? He doesn't offer any tank stats or anything, but Kayle is played as your sustained damage stat, almost like a marksman. And then
out of all the games, do tanks or bruisers get played more? Or the presence? Is there more presence?
It's just about equal because we've seen so much Renekton and a fair bit of Wukong and
that's my
a fair bit of Camille and Jax. So
my point was that there's usually a myriad of tanks, Renekton, and a wall.
But we've seen Camille and Jax also being played more to team fights. We've seen Camille Galio playing for team fights instead of playing for the Camille to be split push.
Yeah, they use the Camille as a engage option for the Galio.
Yeah,
not the biggest fan of it, but it's also not there's nothing that I can say that is not working of it. So like keep going. It's not like a volley bear option.
Yep.
All right. Question of the day. I've got 2.
Okay.
All right. Currently, NA sits at 2-7 across the 3 teams.
Oh, you're hurting me.
They have 9 more games to go. What, as a grand, and we'll do this as like an extra bonus point for all of you for prediction points. In the last set of games, what do you think NA score will be going into?
Going into groups?
So like we're finishing out groups. After groups is done, what do you think NA's score will be? It's currently 2-7. They have 9 games left.
Well, I had predicted 6-12, and I'd like to see 6-12.
Okay, so are you saying 6-12?
So I'm gonna have faith in the 6-12.
All right, 6
Historically, we've done better on day 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna
say
so
like the second set of games.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I think that the collective rage of NA players and NA fans will push TSM and FlyQuest and Liquid to do better, and I feel like we're gonna end the week. 9 wins.
Ooh, 11-7. Okay. No, guys, Josh is the best predictor out of all of us. So like,
Connor's face.
Are you saying? So you're saying we'll win all 9 games?
Fuck it, let's go.
You're going NA goes 9-0.
9-0. I want to see it. I'm doing it.
Like, you realize we already have 7 losses. Not lose another game. TSM goes 3-3. FlyQuest goes 4-2. Liquid goes 4.
Fine, Connor. If it makes you feel better, 8 wins. TSM can lose once.
All right,
you just went down 3 games.
That's final answer 10 out of Josh.
If we win a lot, Josh is right. How's that?
I'm gonna go with 9-9.
Really? Yeah. You guys are going. I thought I was being like fairly optimistic.
Well, that's how I predicted it. Also.
Yeah.
Just saying. But like, technically, I predicted them to be 11-7, like what Josh is thinking right now.
Sure. But even what I said is NA going from 2-7 first half to 4-5 second half.
Yeah.
You guys have even more optimal. Like.
Yep.
So because I want it, Connor. I want it so bad.
I'm looking at the trends, and the reason why I didn't go all in is because I don't think TSM is gonna do super hot, and I think FlyQuest have like a game that they're gonna be really roughed up on.
Okay.
By top at least, but otherwise, I do see a world in which they come back with absolute fury and a whole new style.
We have seen Cloud9 go 0-3 and then 3-0.
Yep.
We've seen it.
All right.
It's happened.
I don't want to cut this short, but I got to get going.
Yep.
So, what's that other question, Seb, or was that already asked?
I mean, technically all of you answered.
All right.
The other question was like, what is your hopes and dreams? And all of us have gotten it through. Yeah, so I'll just close it out then, I guess. We have an extra bonus round. We're going to be seeing all of you on Thursday, as there's a day off only for one group. Everybody else has 2 to 4 days off, which is nice for them. And we'll be discussing the closeout of Group A on then. Let us know if you have any bold predictions or any hopes and dreams in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe. And thank you all again for those who watch. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you all Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.